We begin with news that Canadian billionaire Frank Stronach is facing more charges tonight. CBC News has confirmed that he was arrested for a second time earlier today. The 91-year-old business mogul is now facing another 6 counts of sexual assault, in addition to 5 others laid earlier this month by Peel Regional Police in Ontario. Sarah Galashan is following developments. She joins us now live. So, Sarah, what is being Stronach accused of?
Yeah, well, so Travis, you mentioned it. There's the 6 new counts of sexual assault as well. Today, laid were another 2 additional criminal counts. Unlike the earlier charges that were announced earlier this month, which included rape and forcible confinement, in those cases we knew or know that the allegations are coming from 3 women, that the alleged crimes occurring between 1980 to 2023. In this case, we don't know the dates in which these new charges are related to, or how many alleged victims are making these allegations. We do know that, once again, Frank Stronach was arrested. He had been previously released on bail under conditions, among them to turn over his passport. And CBC News also knows through a source familiar with the case, but one that we are not naming, that following that initial round and announcement of charges, that investigators tied to this case received a phone call from an alleged victim providing information. What we don't know is whether or not any of the information that was provided then has in fact resulted in any of the charges being announced today. Travis?
And Sarah, are we hearing anything from Frank Stronach himself or his team tonight?
Right. Well, similar to a statement that came out previously when those earlier 5 charges were announced, his lawyer, Brian Greenspan, has issued a statement saying that his client, Frank Stronach, denies and will vigorously defend these further untested allegations that he says dates back to 1977. He has spent his lifetime committed to the betterment of the Canadian community and industry. He plans to continue to devote his energy and resources to his work advocating for the adoption of a Canadian Economic Charter of Rights to benefit workers, small businesses, family farmers, and the Canadian economy. And certainly the latter half of that statement there really does speak to Frank Stronach's reputation to this point for the work that he has done and the accolades, frankly, that he has received. He is the founder of the auto parts manufacturer Magna International. He has been celebrated for his philanthropy and his subsequent business ventures. He's been inducted into Canada's Business Hall of Fame, as well to the Order of Canada. He's also the father of Belinda Stronach, the former Liberal and one-time Conservative MP. He is also now, important to why we are talking about him today, facing multiple charges of sexual assault and related offences alleged by, at this point, an unknown number of women. Travis?
All right, CBC's Sarah Galashan on the developing news this evening. Well, let's dive deeper into these charges, and let's bring in Ari Goldkind to do that. He is a criminal defense attorney. He joins us tonight from Toronto. So, Ari, thanks for being here. Can you break down the significance of today's new charges?
Sure, there's so much to unpack, and let me pick up on a point where a lot of people are asking, when did this happen? Now, we've heard the statement from Mr. Greenspan, but when you look at 2 of the additional charges today, indecent assault on a female and attempted rape, those charges no longer exist, similar to one of the rape charges in the earlier batch of charges a couple weeks ago. The criminal code under Bill C-127 was changed in 1982, sworn in 1983, where the word rape was taken out of our criminal code. It's why Canadians often ask, why do we never have that word in court, even though a lot of cases come before the court with that? So when you look at the 2 additional charges today, the indecent assault on a female and the attempted rape, that tells me that we're going back at least 42 to 43 years here, and that is a significant part of the case, including how it's going to be prosecuted and how it will be defended.
Well, you know, one of my questions when this first came to light, these initial charges, was, is there not a statute of limitations?
So I get asked that all the time. I get asked the question you just posed, which is how long can somebody be under a cloud of suspicion or go? That's the statute of limitations. The second one is how does somebody defend themselves when the allegations go back 40 or 50 years and many people don't remember what they had for breakfast? There is no statute of limitations in Canada for sexual assault. For historical sexual offenses, it simply does not exist. There are a number of places in the United States where there is. We've heard about it for a number of very high-profile people. But when you look just recently at the case of Peter Nygard and others, a very high-profile prosecution, it surprises many Canadians to know, as we're talking about with Frank Stronach, that you can go back to at least 1980 or 81, maybe even 1977, and the criminal court system says, look, if somebody comes forward today, it doesn't matter that the allegation was 40 or 50 years ago.
Okay, so Brian Greenspan, you know, a very well-recognized attorney who's taken on a lot of high-profile cases in this country. He is going to be representing Frank Stronach. What do you anticipate the defense to be?
So this is where it becomes very interesting and difficult. Couple points. This allegation is the easiest charge to bring in our law and the hardest to defend. If you or I walk into a police station tonight and allege a whole bunch of things, the police will look for corroboration, evidence, they'll want to pull video, closed circuit cameras, cell phone videos of bystanders. Completely different when it comes to sexual assault. In around 2015, some reporting that became very well known in the Jean Gomeshi case changed the playing field. So what happens is this becomes very hard to defend. Easy to charge, hard to defend. Frank Stronach, like we've seen with others in historical defenses, can basically only say, I didn't do it. Then you add in the most interesting point, Travis, which is what has happened in other notorious cases that are now before the Court of Appeal. The Crown will bring in an expert to say, hey, it doesn't matter how somebody reacts. It doesn't matter how long they take. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if a woman continues to see them. We saw that with Gomeshi. The criminal justice system, when it comes to sexual assault, has almost reversed the presumption of innocence. It presumes many accused men guilty, and it becomes an extraordinarily difficult case to defend, even for the most skilled of lawyers.
What's the penalty that, you know, some of these charges could bring? Could he face a very long jail sentence? I mean, we know that he's 91 years old.
Well, that's a very important part. So the fact that he's 91, whether people like it or not, would, if he was convicted of anything significant, and these are very significant charges, be something a judge would have to factor in. That being said, you have to go back to the 80s or the 70s and look at what the rules were. There were certain crimes of this nature where the maximum was 5. Now we're in the range where the maximums are 10 or 14. Because there's so many separate charges, the judge would have to look at them both separately, but then the principle of what's called totality. In other words, you have to give a fair sentence. You don't just go 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is a very interesting legal talking point we don't have time to get into. But it would be a very difficult sentencing process for a judge if Mr. Stronach was convicted of this. But I can assure you where Mr. Stronach sits tonight, and as much as he has said he does want to talk about it, but under legal advice he has stayed quiet, this will be a very, very difficult road for him to hoe for the next at least year or two as this plays out.
Okay, Ari, appreciate it and your analysis tonight. We'll call on you again. That is criminal defense attorney Ari Goldkind in Toronto.